Welcome to ko.fabrics. Today we're going to be making our adjustable waist pants. Cat has decided to say hello. We've at this point already got our pattern drafted, and if you are joining us from downloading the free pattern on our site, at this point you should have taped together the pattern and cut out your anticipated size. And we will indicate in the video which steps you need to take down in the description in order to make your muslin and test it. So make a muslin, test your fit. I've made a muslin, it's hold on. Right here. And so you want to test basically how the crotch fits is one of the main things you want to test, because that tends to be where most people will have a fitting issue. And you also want to test that you can get the pants on over your hips without needing a fly or a zipper in order to do that. So you want to make sure the waistband here has enough space to get all the way through your hips. And I tested putting elastic in the waistband just because I wanted to make sure everything looked good. You don't necessarily have to do that for the muslin. You could just kind of pin it together in the back or kind of gather it to make sure, or you can just cut out a spare piece of elastic and throw it in there and see how it fits as well. I'm jumping around a little bit today. So these adjustable pants were an idea that I came up with when I was doing my capsule wardrobe plan. If you've been following along, I've had a lot of weight fluctuations this last year, and it's been very frustrating, and I'm tired of taking it out in pants. So when I was making my pattern, when I was making my capsule wardrobe plan, I really wanted some nice kind of linen tailored pants that had some waist adjustability to them. So I made a pattern where the back is elastic and has a little bit of give, and the front is tailored and has a nice little pleat to it and a pocket. You don't need to wear a belt with them, so you could make these in a dress pant or linen pant. Even like a twill, like a lighter weight twill, would be really good. I think like too heavy of a fabric would not work well, but anything from like a midweight to, like a midweight's probably your best bet. Yeah, so like maybe a lightweight wool denim, a lightweight twill denim could work. A medium weight linen, a wool, or like a suiting wool could work really well as long as it has some drape to it. You don't want anything too stiff where it's not gonna gather well or pleat well in the front, but there's a lot of fabric options you can go with for this pant in general, which is really nice. I am using our black linen. It is pretty nice. It's from Robert Kaufman, and it is the Essex black linen we have on our site. It is a linen and cotton blend. So this will take about 2.5 yards of fabric. I'll put the kind of final amount in the description for you in our materials. 2.5 yards is probably good for most sizes, depending your height. If you want to do a crop pant, you could probably go down to 2 yards if you're doing like a knee length or ankle length. I'm 5'8", so I have about 30-inch inseam, and the inseam is really what determines the amount of fabric you need. So if you are taller, you might need to go up to 3 yards just to be safe, so that you're not short on fabric. If you're shorter, 2.5 is probably a great amount, or again, if you're doing like a crop pant, you can probably go down to 2 yards. You do need a little bit of interfacing for this. It's really only going in this waistband, which is our front waistband. We'll put interfacing in the front waistband just so that the tailored look of that band has the kind of nice support it needs. I do not anticipate putting it in the back waistband, this guy, mostly because it's going to be filled with elastic, so it's going to keep its shape well, and I also, because it's going to be filled with elastic, it's going to be gathered, I want it to pleat really nicely and thinly, and I don't want to have to deal with like chunky pleats on that back band, so I'm not putting any in the back waistband, but we will be putting interfacing the front waistband. I like sew-in interfacing, and I just use my scrap muslin, so any muslin you have left over from making your mock-up is going to become your waistband. You can also just take the waistband off your mock-up and use that for the front waistband piece. I think that's it. If there's anything else I need to go through, if I missed any steps, I'll throw them in as I'm chopping away. So, all right, so we're going to get cutting out our pants. The assembly is not too difficult. It's really only a couple steps, so it's not even as complex as our last one. And I'll talk about some of the fitting issues after I cut out my fabric. So, all right, let's get sewing.
All right, first off, we are going to grab our fabric, and we are going to go ahead and cut that out. Again, you need about 2.5 yards for this project. 2 if you're on the petite side, or if you want to do a crop pant is probably okay. And then we are going to align our pant to the grain line. So there should be a long arrow running across this pattern. And you can either use a ruler and just make sure that your pant is equal distance across that ruler, or kind of mark a straight line on the fabric to follow along with. We're going to cut out the front and back pant legs first because they use the most fabric up. And typically we'll be able to cut the rest of the pieces from our scraps. I like to use these nice little pattern weights to hold my pattern down. And then I'm just going to go around and clip all the notches. We'll then have the tuck in the front, which we need to mark the dots for. So you can see I'm just taking a white pencil here and kind of marking those on those pins that I've placed through. And then also for the pocket and the crotch. Now if you're making a muslin, when you cut out your pants, you only need to cut a short out. So cut 3 to 4 inches below the crotch, and that should give you a pretty good fit for the muslin. All right, we're also going to cut the back out. The back has less things to worry about and mark, so trim that out, clip your corners, and then again, you're going to mark your dots. And we're just going to give a close-up of how to mark a dot here. So I like to pin through the fabric in the dot, and then on the inside, I use my pencil and I kind of draw on the pin, using the pin as kind of a way to like get the pencil marking on the fabric, and then cross hatch it. You're going to cut your pockets out, so you should have an inside and outside pocket. The inside will look like this one here, and the outside was the prior one we cut. Make sure to, again, clip your notches and mark your dots with the pockets. To cut our waistbands, we are going to take the grain, the fabric kind of grain line, so you can see the selvage edge there, and we're going to cut out along that grain line. So I'm going to fold the fabric in half, press it, and then cut out along it. This will give us a much sturdier waistband. I'm going to do that for both the front and the back pieces. And it just prevents the waistband from getting stretched out because we want the grain line to be going around our waist so it doesn't overly stretch with time. Here you will need to do the same thing for your pocket reinforcement piece and your interfacing for the front waistband. Alright, so we're going to talk about a couple common fit issues with pants. The first one is for the back. So if your butt is big, if you got the big butt, right, what you're going to want to do is either add fabric here So either add it so it comes kind of out and then you can taper it back in, or add at the hip in the same way. And you're just gonna swing and swing it back in. The other option, if you have a big butt, is to take, so start from the top. You're gonna draw a line down, draw a line over, probably about to here, honestly. I would come down a little bit further. And then you're gonna cut along that line and open the pattern up, however much ease you need. And then tape it back together. That is another way. So that is all for if you got a big butt. Now, if you're like me, which this pattern is a little bit more for if you got a bit of a flat butt, but I have wide hips, so it kind of counteracts, and I have wide thighs. So if you have a flat butt and you've got a lot of excess fabric here, right? There's just like bunch fabric up here. What you're going to want to do is take this in. So you're going to take from here, and if your waist size needs to stay the same, you're going to take this in and come in like this. And so however much you need to pinch it in, and then just take that out, and then just add it to the crotch depth. So if the thigh is fitting you well, so if like the thigh part fits your thighs well, but you've got too much space here, just take that in right there. Now, if you've got thunder thighs, like I do, I have big thighs. My girth right here is very big comparatively. You want to add space here, so what you're going to do is, one, you can deepen how far this goes and then just take it back along that line. You can also, again, add additional length here, so extend that out around the thigh area and curve it back in. If you've got too much thigh, right, it feels baggy and loose and not the way you want, you can do the opposite. So you can take this crotch depth in, and so then you can take that in, so you have less crotch depth if that's what you need. Most of these adjustments you're going to make from the back. Similarly, you can make the same adjustment on the front piece. So if you feel like this is really tight in the front, you can add depth here. Now, if you feel like this is really if it's feels too tight right here, you can either extend out from the edge, or again, you can extend out from here. Now, this pattern assumes that you have a uterus, so it actually sways, this direction a little bit, like less exaggerated, but it swings this way instead of being straight up, so that it allows for a little bit more girth right here where the baby bump, our pooches are typically. So it allows for a little bit of extra space. If you don't need that, you can actually just come through here and take it in. So if you find that that's not to your liking and you want to move that, you can. Similarly, if you want to take the pattern in, that's why I leave this pocket here, so it's really easy to take the pattern in from the side if you need to. So you can also take a little bit in from here as well if you need the waist to be tightened up. Any changes you make to this top area, you need to also make to your waistbands. And so, as an example, the way the waistband lines up is you can see it starts a little bit in here because we have our seam allowance. So it starts in, and then you're going to measure to the dart, which is where the notches, and then move it to the other notch, and then to the edge. So if you take something off of this side, you want to take it off of this side as well. Similarly, if you add any length here, you're going to want to add it to this side. That goes for the back piece as well. And the notches are a convenient way to kind of measure and line those things up. Now, if you find you have a lot of excess material here and you want to get rid of it, you can scoop it out more. So if you need a little bit less, if you need the girth but there's too much fabric, you can scoop it here. Now I recommend making back adjustments before making front adjustments in general, just because it's typically not the front that's your issue, it's typically the back that is the issue, so do that first. And again, the same if you feel tightness at the hip or the girth, you can always add a little bit to the front and the back on the sides, just to add additional width. And those are the main fit issues. And I'll throw a little chart link in the description to a fitting guide so you can see what kind of lines you would get on pants and what type of adjustment to make.
So next up, we're going to start prepping our pieces. We're going to serge the edge of the pocket reinforcement piece, leaving the other edge alone. You can do this on your serger or on your sewing machine. If you're using your sewing machine, you can use a zigzag stitch or the serger stitch and just go all the way around the edge. Next, we want to serge all the edges of our pockets except for the top edge and the side where the reinforcement piece is going to go. For that, we're going to pin the edge, the reinforcement piece to the pocket and just baste along that line, making sure that when we do our opposite pocket, we have sides that are opposite of one another. So make sure they face different directions with the reinforcement piece on. Then we are going to baste our muslin or add our interfacing to one of our waistbands for the front waistband. Then lastly, we are going to grab our other waistbands and we are going to start connecting them together. So one front waistband matches to one back waistband. And then you're going to do that again on the other side. So you should have one waistband with interfacing and muslin on it and one waistband without interfacing and muslin. Then we are going to pin our dots together on the front panel of our pants, and we are just going to stitch to the stitching line. So it should only be just a couple stitches, and then we're going to push the dart, the excess fabric towards the crotch line. Yep, just like that. You see how that goes towards the crotch, and we're going to baste it down. Next, we are going to add our inside pocket to the front of the pant. So the outside of the pant on the front piece matches to the inside of the pocket. I'm going to stitch that down, and then I'm going to go ahead and clip all of those corners and trim that seam allowance just a little bit. And so this is going to be our front pocket's inside. I'm going to flip it to the inside, and then what I want to do is stitch down after I press the seam over. I'm going to stitch down on the pocket side, and I want to stitch through my seam allowance and the inside of the pocket. And that's going to help this pocket fold towards the inside of the pant, so you have a really nice clean edge and the pocket doesn't come up through the pant when you're wearing it. And so now it folds, look at that, it's folding perfectly towards the inside. I almost don't have to press it, it'll just kind of naturally want to fold that way. And now we have our inside pocket done. You're going to do this on the other side too, so both sides. Then we're going to add the outside of the pocket. So part of this pocket is going to show on the pants. So hopefully you cut this out of your fabric. I'm going to match up all of the notches and make sure that my pocket's well aligned. And then I'm going to pin around the pocket edge. And I want to sew just the outside edge first. So I'm going to sew around that outside edge. And now again, I'm going to line up my notches and re-pin it down. And then after I'm happy with my alignment, I'm going to sew the top and the side down. So I want to sew the side pocket and just kind of baste it into place, and the top edge so that it is also basted into place. And so you can see how now I have a full front panel. So they're both basted. Now I can connect my back pant to my front pant. So place the right sides together and line up your notches, and then pin the outside edge first. So going down the line, making sure everything connects well. My back pants are a little shorter than my front pants because I did run out of fabric because I am tall, but I don't need the full length because I know I'm going to hem it a little shorter than what I cut it. So I'm going to sew that edge together, and then I'm going to come back over and pin the inside of the leg. So I'm going to start at the dot in the crotch, line up that dot on both pieces, and then I'm just going to line up that diagonal all the way down the pant. And then I'm going to sew all the way down that line. With both of these seams, after you've done this part, you can go ahead and serge those edges if you're pretty confident in your fit, like if you made your muslin and it fits well. Or you can wait until after you've tested the fit to serge the edges. It's a little trickier, but it's not too big of a deal. I like to go ahead and press my pant seams. I use what's called, there's two sewing tools. One's called a hot dog, one's called a ham. This is the hot dog. The ham's kind of a rounder pressing ball thing. And it's just filled with batting. I made this one myself, and I use it all the time. So we're going to press those flat, get everything nice and flat. Then I'm going to take both of my pant legs. One will be inside out and one will be outside in. And I'm going to make sure that the right sides are together. And I'm going to put one pant through the other pant leg. And then I'm going to pin around the crotch. So I'm going to line up the crotch. I'm going to make sure everything is correctly connecting. And then I'm just going to pin around this hole here. And then I'm going to sew around this edge. You didn't know making pants was this easy, huh? Now sew all the way around that edge, making sure to back tack in the beginning, match your seam allowances in the middle, and back tack at the end. And our main pant construction is done, so you should have a kind of functioning pair of pants at this point. Now grab your two waistbands, the one with the interfacing and the one without, and put them with the right sides together, so the outside of the fabric, and pin them all the way around. The top edge should have a double notch in it. Line up those double notches and pin around. So we're going to sew the top edge of the waistbands together. This is the edge that's going to kind of fold and make the top of our pants. Now, I forgot to sewing them together, so go ahead and do that. After you've sewn them, we will need to understitch, which is, you've already done it once, so we're going to do it again. On the side of the waistband without interfacing, you're going to sew just a little bit off that seam line, catching the seam allowance, and just go all the way around. And this should get you a nice clean finish that folds to the inside. All right, so now sewn all together. And we have our understitching, and so we can just trim away the excess fabric here if we didn't already trim our seam before sewing. And now our waistband should be very easy to fold, and we can go ahead and attach it to our pants. So I'm going to line up my side seams, line up my middle and my notches. This should be the single clip notch. And go all the way around the fabric. Distributing if anything feels a little loose, just try to distribute the extra fabric among the pins so they're kind of even. And I usually make sure to sew with the pant side down so that goes on really smoothly. And we're just going to go all the way around the edge. Check your waistband for any tucks that might have happened and unpick your stitches and redo those if you have them. I always end up having like one that I have to fix. Now we can press that inside waistband down. Just get it nice and flat. And again, it's going to want to fold down very nicely. We're just going to fold under that edge and pin it right below the seam line so that when we stitch in the ditch here in a second, we catch that edge. Here in a minute, you're also going to see me mark on the outside about a 2-inch gap. We are going to skip that gap when we are sewing so that we can insert our elastic. Now you can see me stitching in the ditch here. So I'm keeping my needle right in between that seam line, and then I'm going to hop over that 2-inch gap I have right where the seam, middle seam is.
So we are about 4 o'clock, and we've sewn pretty much all day today while we did laundry, but we are at a good point. So the pants are good. I need to do a try on and make sure everything fits, but the last thing to do is the elastic. And so we left these little holes here, let me find it, on the inside, about an inch wide hole or so. And we're gonna take our elastic and thread it through here and thread it through the back of the pant to the other hole on the other side. And then what we're going to do is stitch the elastic down here and stitch it down here. So when we're threading, we're going to pin it on this side first, or stitch it on this side first so it doesn't move, and then thread it through and then stitch it on this side. And then we'll kind of evenly distribute everything along the way. So this is our elastic. I've got a nice stretch. It stretches pretty far, but all you're going to want to do is take your band, and you have on pants, you can kind of go from side to side. Is just go from one side to the other, and I want you to pull it just a little bit. Okay, so then you have your, now we have our band. So I'm gonna mark a line where my waist is, and then I'm just gonna add a couple inches there. Got this. I know you love seeing just a bosom while I do stuff, but my zoom lens is on the other camera and I don't feel like changing it. So now we're going to take this, thread it through the back of the pants, and then all that's left after that is our hem. So we'll see. I should be able to finish this tonight. It might be kind of late when I finish it, but we're almost there.
First off, grab a pin and your elastic. Thread the pin through one end of your elastic. Now you're going to weave that pin into one side of the waistband. And basically you use the pin as something you can kind of shuttle through the fabric. You're going to kind of move fabric down the pin. When you get to the end of the elastic on through the hole that you just went through, pin it down, and I like to just go ahead and sew it down. It's just secure and it's going to stay put. So you tack it by sewing it on the seam line on the outside, and then you can go ahead and stitch in the ditch like we did earlier. And so now that hole is closed and the seam is sewn down. All right, back to the pin. So we're going to keep shuttling that pin through until it reaches the other side. Now I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to tack it down. Now I like to make sure I have about a 1/4 inch overlap on each side so the elastic doesn't unravel. And if you want to be extra secure, you can do a zigzag. Now I've tacked both sides down and my elastic is in place.
Okay. Since it's fun, I'm going to show you guys what this looks like so far. So the pants overall fit pretty nicely. I could probably tighten the elastic just a little bit, but honestly it's not. So pants overall, not a bad fit. I need to take the taper in just a little bit because they are just a hair bell bottomy. Just fun. And I didn't catch the back. It was a little too high in the center, so I'm going to take that in just a hair too to get it to line up straight. But otherwise, we are pretty good, and we'll make those same adjustments to our pattern. Luckily, neither one of them are, they're annoying, but not too hard to make. So
I'm just going to show you a little bit of this process. I trimmed my elastic down a little bit. I unpicked a bunch of stitches through here. It took a long time. And then on the back, I unpicked the waistband so that I could kind of pull that middle line up and sew it back down again. So mostly if you're making alterations, a lot of them are just unpicking what you've done. So time to mark our hem. Either use your inseam or put the pants on and figure out where you want them to end at and mark a line there. We're going to fold it down, and then I'm going to turn in about a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch on the inside, depending on how big I want my hem to be. And then I'm just going to pin it in place. And another way you can do this on the other side is you can always fold in the 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch first, and then fold up to your hemline. I think it's a lot easier to mark the hemline and the fold up on the outside of the fabric, because I can kind of see them when I fold the fabric up and just fold exactly where that line is. So I tend to use my washable pencils for that, and you can kind of see I'm folding right on the line. It makes a really clean hem. And then I'm going to pin those in place as well. I tend to prefer to do a blind hem, so I will sew from the outside of the fabric, the distance of my hem all the way around. With that, we are done. So I avoided taking photos of this pant for about 2 to 3 weeks. So today is what you get. This pant is very comfy. The linen is perfect for the summer. It's very cool. I love a crop pant, so I'm actually going to re-hem these to be a crop pant because I keep rolling them up to be a crop pant. So I just think this pattern suits it so well. And with that, you can download this pattern for free at ko.fabrics.com and shop the Essex black linen.